Now hand over after Dr. Schinkel to Dr. Rosam, who is a partner at Ernst & Young. And Dr. Rosam will speak about how we could bring together the financial services community when it comes to quantum computing. Dr. Rosam, thank you so much for being here with us. The floor is yours.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here at this conference, also as a sponsor. So it's a great conference, and I'm happy to talk about the joint initiative, not just by EY, but also by Tech Quartier and IBM. So just a little bit about me. I'm a partner at EY in our technology consulting practice, and I'm leading our sector or competence around emerging technologies. And quantum computing is something which is interests me personally as well a lot, and because I'm a mathematician, I did a lot of research in my PhD around numerical analysis and high performance computing. In that context, of course, I'm interested in the topic for a long time. And in recent years, as you all know, things have accelerated, and we are currently at a point where it's really important, we believe, that also financial service institutions are getting involved in this topic, in this technology, and to see the use cases and the advantages quantum computing can bring to them, but on the other hand, also understand the risk. And that's the reason why we discussed a lot with market participants, but also with IBM and Tech Quartier. And Tech Quartier is the Fintech hub in Frankfurt. We will hear, I think, that the next speaker is from Yoss Quantum, is Fintech also placed and situated at the Tech Quartier in Frankfurt. And I think what our observation is that there are a lot of initiatives in different industries. But on the financial service side, there's not an initiative where people come together to discuss and work on use cases jointly. And that's the reason why we decided to start an initiative together to push this forward, really bringing together the financial service quantum computing community. And that's what we're planning. So motivation, I think, is clear. So, I mean, quantum computing is something which is also important for financial service institutions. And we already see some of the big players getting involved. I think here in Germany, I think most well-known, of course, is the Deutsche Börse, that the use case around quantum computing. But if you look at internationally, then institutions like UBS, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and specifically also the large investment banks, they're heavily interested in understanding what quantum computing can bring them in different areas, on the risk management side, but also on the front office side, really predicting markets in a certain way, optimizing portfolios in a certain way. Because at the end of the day, in a financial markets environment, if you have more controls over the risk, if you understand pricing better in the way how risk is behaving, and of course you have an advantage. So that's something they're really interested in. And then on the other hand, as I said, on the risk management side, really so helping risk management and risk controlling to control better the risks, and also have more granular analysis and understanding of the risk parameters. So there is a lot of momentum going on at the moment. In Germany, it's still limited. I think from our observation, at least half of the financial service institutions are not really engaging. Some of them have looked into it briefly, but we can't see much movement. And the other half splits a little bit between half and half. So half of them think this is a topic they should do later on, and half of them basically are investigating and trying to get engaged. I mean, some of the institutions also applied for some funding from the German government and built some consortium to push things forward. And some, of course, doing this on their own, either together with a hardware provider or fintech or professional service firm like us. But it's a momentum which is there. And I think from our prediction, we are at the tipping moment here that basically we will see an acceleration in the next years, which will drive, of course, the use cases and the adoption. So therefore, I think from our perspective, it's the right moment, it's the right timing to get involved. And also, of course, to focus on the risks involved here. And not just on the use cases, but also on the risks. And I think we need to keep in mind that financial service firms are operating a critical market infrastructure for all of us. I mean, if we look about payments, if we look about Deutsche Börse, our exchanges, our German exchange, of course, this is critical infrastructure, and also they need to understand what it means for them from a risk perspective, which also reflects the discussions we have with regulators, specifically when we look at getting involved in risk management. A lot of banks are very much bound to regulatory requirements when it comes to the risk management calculation. And of course, that means that also regulators need to step up to understand what does quantum computing mean when it comes to risk management calculation, which is very interesting discussion to have. So therefore, also in our initiative here, regulators are invited to join the roundtable, with banks and other financial institutions to understand better where also the market is moving to. Another indication why we think it's also the tech quartier thinks it's an important topic is when we look at the fundings for fintechs. It's still numbers from 2021. We're currently doing a European-wide research survey, which hopefully will come out in the next couple of weeks on the fintech landscape for quantum. But we can already see that also there's a lot of money moving into the fintech space, driven by governments, but also by private equity and other firms really investing a lot. So therefore also it's a great momentum now to join forces between the traditional firms and fintechs and the hardware providers. And I think that's what we're trying to do. So the use cases, of course, are most of you are kind of aware of. I mean, we see on the short term use cases really around optimization topics. We already have seen use cases around portfolio optimization. We see use cases around, of course, quantum safe cryptography, so on the safety side. There are some institutions looking into securing certain way of information exchange, which is also a topic which is interesting for us as a Big Four firm. And I think Karina Kiesling talked about this earlier today in her talk. And so there are already use cases which are relevant. And then, of course, in the long term, it will really around risk management and valuation topic, which will be very interesting. Risk analysis, valuation at risk, Monte Carlo simulation, which can really accelerate the way risks are calculated on the one hand side, but also increase the number of freedom to make the risk management and risk prediction, of course, much better. And that's the idea, to come together, to bring the community together to discuss the use cases, really jointly work on these use cases, because from my perspective, the most limiting factor we will have, not just in financial services when it comes to quantum, but generally is talent. So it's, from my perspective, it's not realistic that every institution builds up its own quantum computing team of 20, 40 people. I mean, so many people are not on the market yet. So therefore, they need to work together. They need to engage with fintechs. They need to engage with certain providers, and they need to join up in order to leverage the technology in a good way, and also to prepare themselves for the security issues which might arise, which of course are traumatic or could be traumatic for financial service institution. So therefore, we kicked off our initiative in November last year. We had the first event at Tech Quartier together with the Tech Quartier himself, but also IBM did a great presentation on the roadmap and the way how people can engage with quantum computing. And then we had a presentation from Just Quantum, who will also present at this conference, and Quanticore, another fintech more focusing on the security side and post-quantum cryptography. So we had a great outreach, more than 300 people registered. So there was a lot of participation in the live stream. So even given the COVID situation, it's a great event, and for Tech Quartier it was one of the best. Not the best event itself, but the event last year where most of the people attended. So great outreach. So what we will do now is a second event, which is coming up in June now, again for specifically focus on financial service firms. It's an event again together with TU Darmstadt. So Professor Wolf will be there discussing how high performance computing is evolving into quantum. I will talk about the industry use case and also what needs to be done to move from a high performance computing environment to a quantum environment. Also, what's not going to work. So as you all know, and we all know, it's not everything will work will be faster on a quantum computer. So there are limitations. So that's something I will focus on, and then we will see a demonstration of IBM, and at the end there will be a use case discussion with R&D. It's one of the largest insurance companies on a use case they did together with Yost Quantum, and I think there was also some government funding involved. So that's the next event in our series of events. And the idea is, in parallel, we're organizing a roundtable on C-level. So really trying to get the chief risk officers and the chief IT officers together, also to discuss this on the C-level, because at the end of the day, the funding is coming from a C-level. So they need to understand what it means. It's not just the people applying the quantum in their use case. It's also the management who really needs to understand. And I think this is also something we as EY are supporting the market in getting the attention and also educating people so that people understand what it will mean for us, for the industry, but also for the society. And I think it's a game changer from my perspective. So that's a little bit what we do. And of course, that's something we want to advertise here, specifically for those institutions who are financial service driven to reach out to us. So us means to Stefan from IBM, but also to Hugo from Tech Quartier or myself, and really to try to engage in this roundtable, is to come together to discuss these things and to build a community of interested financial service institutions, regulators, German Bundesbank might be there, and others, so that we together form a group who push this forward specifically for financial service firms. So thanks very much for listening, and happy to take some questions.
Dr. Rosam, thank you so much for your intervention. I will start with a question. We have 1 minute. I think we can do this. In your perspective, because you're the expert, what is maybe one of the main 3 reasons why we don't see this kind of engagement in the market with this in this point? What is it?
No, I think at the moment, to be honest, it's the geopolitical issues. So I mean, there are other things on the table. To be very honest, so we have seen some momentum lost. Currently, people are engaged with other things. Second thing is really, it's not tangible on a C-level perspective. So a lot of C-level people just don't understand yet what it means. It's too cryptic for them. So I think we need to make it clearer really what the benefits are, but also what the threats are. And then the third thing is really it's just too much for a lot of people, it's just too much away. And they don't believe this is something they need to invest now. I think this is wrong, but it's education needed, education. I think that's really important.
Dr. Rosam, thank you so much. I think this was a good phrase to end education. I like that. Thank you so much for being with us.